All right. Here we are back again.
Yay.
I have an idea
Uh-huh.
uh, about how we could chat about your experience,
Okay.
your recent experience with health that has brought health to the forefront for you in a way that it hasn't been there in the past.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, we, I mentioned in my call the other day, and this is something that I think about and write about a lot, and that's the different languages. When we talk about health being something from body, mind, and spirit,
Mm-hmm.
everybody kind of goes, "Yeah, that makes total sense," and and yet the body doesn't have the same language, and the spirit doesn't have the same language as
Mm.
our minds use. This language that we deal with, which is incredibly complex, I'm speaking it now. I want to be understood. And you have your end where you're hearing me and interpreting me. And the same is going on within each of us when it comes to our bodies and our spirits, from my perspective. And I'm curious if we were to explore that a little bit for you, what might emerge
Mm.
when you listen in a new way.
Let's try that.
Want to give it a try?
Yeah.
Okay. So, what from a from a mind perspective,
Mm-hmm.
you've been giving, in a language perspective, you've been given a diagnosis or a lack of diagnosis. There's a
Mm-hmm.
number of things that have come up. What exactly is that from your doctor?
Okay. Well, from the doctor, from a mind perspective, there's no diagnosis for the moment. There's there's an explanation of why I lost sight and why it's coming back slowly, which is the optic nerve is inflamed.
Mm.
It's a demyelination. Um, it shows on MRIs, and the steroids that I'm taking are calming that
Mm.
inflammation, which also shows on the subsequent MRIs, which correlates to my seeing more. So I'm now seeing the way ophthalmologists talk about it. 20/20 is perfect vision, 20/50 is the driving limit, and 20/70 is where I was at on Thursday last week. So not that good, but given that I was blind in that eye, it's quite some progress as well. Um, and in terms of explanations of how come this inflammation is happening, there is no diagnosis so far. What the doctors know is that it is not blood related. I don't have syphilis. I don't have a lot of things like that. The MRI came, besides the one inflammation, no other inflammation or past inflammation showed up. So MS is now not that likely, which leaves a whole range of autoimmune disease,
Mm-hmm.
for which more testing is being done. What's explored as well is potentially some hereditary, some genetic type of a disease. So some testing will start in the next month or so. And what I thought was very interesting was one of the doctors also spoke about at this point what they would consider too is potentially not being able to diagnose anything. And they have some patients for whom the explanation is a one-off and we don't know.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So that's a a fairly concise package of words
Yeah.
and labels, and lets us know in a couple of minutes what's been unfolding for you over a long period of time.
Yeah.
And so we're really good at that.
Mm-hmm.
Our minds will process all that information and will look for meaning in it, for patterns in it, and look for explanation. And I'm guessing that what has the unknown been like for you?
It's been dealing with the unknown. I think is an interesting part of life. You know, I'm trained as a mathematician, and dealing with the unknown is part of what mathematicians do, because we mostly don't know anything about these things we observe in math. And there's all these different types of unknown, like the unknown of, is there an actual meaning in the universe? Is there God, the way a lot of people refer to as God? And so dealing with the unknown, I think, is an interesting aspect of human development, and what people, and the way in which people deal with the unknown, I think is it's very telling. Like there's a lot to look at. So in my case, what I've noticed was some fluctuation, like going from, well, it is just what it is unknown, in a very analytical way, which is, okay, that thing is happening, there's an inflammation, and they don't know how come. And sort of a moment by moment perspective of, well, right now I just don't know more. And that's all there is to do. So that was sort of one place where I go, and it fluctuates with another place of really deep frustration, of frustration with myself for, not being clear if I did this to myself somehow. Am I responsible for this? Did I do something wrong? Frustration with maybe the environment, like, is this being done to me? Is this something about how I live, how I eat, where I live? And the frustration with the whole social environment of wanting to be able to tell people more, wanting to have more to offer for people who are worried for me, like my family and some of my friends. And the frustration with the whole medical field, in terms of not always being clear with, when I started losing my sight, it was an emergency. Like, you lose some sight in a rapid way, you go to the hospital, everything, they worried you have a stroke, so everything kicks in. But it was frustrating to go from, oh my God, this is an emergency, we're going to deal with this quick and find out what's going on and do something about it, to slowly transitioning to, okay, this is neurological, there's nothing urgent, and having to be told, okay, well, we'll see you next time in 3 months. And when you go, I went from, meetings, emergency meetings the next day, to, okay, well, are you free December 12th? And there was times where this was deeply frustrating, to have to wait, to not know. So it's been really these two things in terms of dealing with that.
So then you have to deal with the with that those two.
I'm finding myself going between these two things. Between, like, okay, well, there's just some unknown, I don't, it's fine, it's just what we don't know, and to like, I want to know more, like.
you've had a bit of time to be with that. Do you feel
Yeah.
like you are more skillful with this
Oh
now?
yeah. Well, not only now, but I think out of all the training I've done over the last few years, if it wasn't for that training, I think I would spend so much more time simply being frustrated.
Ah,
And this has been sort of a training opportunity to practice being with the unknown. And I'm pretty thankful, but so far I've fared pretty well in terms that there's been, to my recollection, only maybe once or twice, I think twice, days where I really woke up to, I'm done with this. I'm done. Like, this was a bad dream. I'm out. Sort of that despair,
yeah,
that resignation of,
yeah,
give me a new life. Give me this. This can't be real. This
yeah,
just sort of a delusion. It only
yeah.
happened a couple of times, and I got out of it fairly quickly. So I'm pretty thankful that, from my perspective, the training of being with the uncertainty works.
That's fantastic. And what you're describing, that place that we go to, um,
Yeah,
I call it, lately I'm calling it wobble.
the wobble.
And
Yeah,
the wobble, and it reveals a way of being within us, a level of skillfulness within us, an edge where we're not used to being, that we need to learn how to be there, all those kinds of things, and it changes.
yeah.
But I'm curious about what it is that, can you talk more about what it is that has you being able to be there in that unknown?
Hmm.
What actually is going on that you feel comfortable there?
I think, and different people have talked about it in different ways. The being in the now, which is sort of what Eckhart Tolle talks. Eckhart Tolle would talk about being in the now.
Yeah.
Um, um, at Landmark, we would talk about being grounded in reality, in what's actually happening, versus the stories we make up about
Mm-hmm.
what's happening. And I think that skill of distinguishing, being able to set what do you call it? Being able to set apart what actually is happening right now, where am I right now in this present moment, from my internal state and these things I have no control over, thoughts and memories and emotions. Acknowledging them, there's trying to repress a thought or an emotion doesn't do any good to anyone. But it's important to be able to distinguish those things for what they are. And
Mm-hmm.
so in those moments of frustration or even cynicism, the ability to set aside, okay, what is actually happening in my body or in my environment or for myself,
Mm-hmm.
from what's all these emotions and thoughts happening, and what am I going to do with them?
Mm-hmm.
For me, is a source of great power. It grounds me in, there is only this present moment. And then in those moments, the way it sounds like in my head is I can pause and say, okay, what's happening right now? Besides some blindness in one eye, I'm healthy. I have some side effects from the steroids, which, I have a sense of. So you know what? There's all these things I can do, and there's these things I cannot do.
Mm-hmm.
Can I be with this right now in this moment? Yes. And then that opens the door for, well, if I can be open to be okay with this right now, then I can be the next moment and the next moment and the next moment.
Mm-hmm. And I think what's going on there, for when I resonate with what you're saying, and I know that it gets rid of a lot of extraneous
Yeah.
stuff that we could be churning with. And our minds just love to grab onto that kind of stuff. So to train oneself, to learn, to be skillful in being able to be just in this moment as best as possible, actually gives us access to that language that I'm talking about. It's different than this language. It's what is my body telling me?
Yeah.
And then I think what begins to happen is there starts to be integration and kind of working together. And the same kind of listening that we're practicing with ULab, this deeper, open-hearted, open mind, open will, allowing us to simply be in the moment, which does not need to process the download. When you think of it, when you be with it that way, can you bring your it's your optic nerve, is it?
Yeah.
Your optic nerve, in which eye?
The left one.
In your left eye. There's a demyelation happening. Yeah. And that's beginning to heal.
Yes.
Yeah. If you were to have a conversation with the left optic nerve, what is your eye telling you?
How do you go about answering that question? Do I imagine a dialogue and allowed to sort of channel whatever is there to be said, or?
Yeah. Could ask a question.
I would ask the question, what's up?
Yeah.
What's up? And what comes to mind? What's there? What would my left optic nerve say? What's up? Well, whatever this, we don't know. It just happened. I feel like that sometimes.
How are you feeling?
How are you feeling? Optic nerve. How's the eye? You know, it's tiring. It's this is tiring.
Something's not working.
Yeah, and something's not working, and we want to deal with this, but it's not easy. And so we're doing our best. I don't know if it's a we, but I'm doing my best.
Yeah. Do you want to heal?
Do you want to heal? Yeah, we do. We do. Very much so. And it's like, we're not doing it against you. We're not doing that against you, like talking to me, David, right? It's not a personal thing. Like, this is not meant to harm you.
It's an interesting place to be because the information, again, it's like this listening process. We're trusting that there's something there that we wouldn't be able to access by by a conventional process of measuring, like an MRI has given you information, given your doctor information. There's previous experience with a similar condition in other people, so they know that if you put a steroid, prednisone, is it?
Yeah.
Prednisone into your body, that it will it'll disrupt the process that's underway of demyelation, and will may turn that around. And in this case, yes, the answer is yes. You can see that it is helping.
Mm-hmm.
But those are measurements that we're used to making.
Yeah.
And we tend to keep ourselves within that container.
Mm.
And when we listen to our bodies, we're listening in a different way. And we're not taught how to do that. Our culture doesn't
No.
recognize the validity of it, or the wealth of wisdom that's there, because it's hard to know what to, what are you listening for? What do you do with what you get? Can you trust that information?
Mm-hmm.
And I think as we spend more time in that open place of listening, we build the ability to touch deeper, more deeply, so that there's greater access. We learn to have our minds do all the interpretation. We set aside some of that and leave some space for what else wants to arise. And then through that, our bodies and our minds and our spirits begin to work in a more trusting relationship with one another. And you mentioned in an earlier conversation that your experience with lasting health, the concept of lasting health, with the work that we're beginning to do here, and your recent experience with this health issue, that your relationship with health is radically different than it was not so long ago.
Well, I'm mostly present to how it's not been on my mind. It's been hidden, and as you said, I've never trained myself to listen to my body. Like, that is something I'm awakening to, how little I know how to do, how to answer that question. But how do you trust that information? How do you channel those conversations with your own body? And that has me now that is something that I'm interested in. That never was the case. To listen to my body, yeah.
I'm curious about what will come up as you follow that.
Yeah, me too. Yeah.
And I think it's a significant aspect of creating lasting health for oneself, to be able to be in that place, be in communication in that new way.
Yeah. Yeah. In the conversation you had with Marsha, she mentioned the power of a combination of sort of body work with, she said, sort of talk work or something like that.
Yeah. Yeah.
I've trained myself extensively in the talk work, and I am profoundly unskilled in body work.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that's part of the challenge as well as the opportunity that this lasting health program represents for me.
Mm-hmm.
Creating the growing there, and as you said, I am myself curious too of what will open up out of that, where will go and take me and others.
Mm-hmm.
And I suspect that's one of the main challenge for, not challenge, but it's a big piece of developing this program is finding a way to allow people to integrate these different kinds of practices of speaking from the mind, speaking from the body, speaking from the spirit. It'll take something to make sure that that gets done in an integrative way.
How will you listen now? How will you be in touch with your body from this point forward?
Well, this is definitely opening up a new curiosity to actually spend time pausing and doing just that, and just attempting to listen, like seeing what opens up, seeing if I can hear something, and then having a look at what that says. I've been dealing with the side effects of the prednisone. I realize now it had me stop doing that, because I've been constantly trying to use my mind to figure out, is it the prednisone? Do I feel well? Do I not feel well? Should I cancel the meeting? Should I rest more?
Mm-hmm.
Or should I just, no, this is fine. It's just, a body sensation that will pass. Let's just go for it. And I'm starting to realize that that's sort of the beginning of listening to my body.
Mm-hmm.
To have these days where and there were days where I didn't have a good explanation, but I just trusted something else and said, you know what? No, this morning I'm going to rest and not do all of that other work I was going to do.
Mm-hmm.
And put it somewhere else in my schedule. And it's a weird experience for me.
Yeah.
Because I'm not used to listen to my body like this. I'm used to waiting till no, I'm coughing and I'm sniffing, I have a temperature.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I'm staying in bed, I'm definitely sick. That counts.
Mm-hmm.
But these other things, I don't know. My rational brain is skeptical. Am I making excuses?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So I'm going to keep that inquiry up and keep listening to what is being said by my body here, and then try on. I mean, when you got, moment by moment, you got the one shot. You think you heard something, great. Well, try something. What are you going to do with it?
Mm-hmm.
So that's what I'm going to take on.
Great. And I would say that in general, we can all trust the things that come up more than we tend to think we can. Our intuition and our instinct are powerful, powerful tools when we allow them in, because they are the way in which the voices of our bodies and our spirits come, cut through our intellect.
They do. See, that I see for sure in coaching and tapping into part of spirit, part of, that fourth level of listening described in the new lab of listening for the future emerging.
Mm-hmm.
I was reflecting on, as a coach, when coaching people, that is most of the listening that I do. And as you just said, it's not an intellectual process as much as there's an intuition about where else to take the conversation and what to do. When I train some junior coaches, they ask me, what's the tips and tricks and how do you go from here to here? And I don't have an answer for that. It's you build that intuition that
Yeah.
As you navigate a conversation, you sense where to go, but not because you have a map and tips and tricks. So that analogy there in the world of coaching and in tapping into part of what fulfills people and connect to their purpose, that part of spirit, I fully get. To explore that in the body and emotional realm is something that I haven't done as much, but I can sense what you're speaking to. So this is actually really good to like put a tiny bit of a map on what's going on here.
I'm so grateful for you sharing this with me, and through the recording with the rest of our team.
Yeah.
We're at the time where you have to go on to something else.
Yeah, I have to get going, but I really appreciate this conversation and the way in which you open up a new avenue of thinking for myself and giving me a chance to express what's going on with words and processes that I'm not used to. So I really appreciate you putting me on that path today.
Wonderful. And I look forward to another conversation.
Me too.
Yeah.
Me too.
And I hope you have a fantastic day.
Same to you, John.
Bye for now.
Okay. Bye for now.